professeur Benedict Oramah était au Cameroun en visite de travail.
Benedict Oramah.
Benedict Oramah.
Dr. Benedict Oramah.
Dr. Benedict Oramah.
Le docteur Benedict Oramah.
The investiture of Dr. Benedict Oramah as president of the AFREXIM Bank.
Professor Benedict Oramah, president of the African Export and Import Bank.
By 44 strokes of the pen, African nations said no more. The outcome was the African Continental Free Trade Agreement.
Our heads are pointed towards the sun and our feet are moving forward.
25 years ago, I am sure there would have been doubt as to whether Africans can truly come together to build something meaningful.
University of Ibadan, Oyo State, Nigeria. It was here, at this famous historic university, that Professor Oramah defined his destiny when he graduated in 1983 with a BSc Honours degree in Agricultural Economics. He would later bag his master's and doctorate degrees from the prestigious Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife. With an unbroken focus and a survival instinct that was electric, his determination to succeed was ironclad.
Professor Oramah is as bold as a lion. He's also extremely wise.
Professor Oramah stands out. He is a distinguished personality, a strong believer in Africa.
Dr. Oramah is very hardworking. He's a person of high repute and integrity and very humble.
Plunging headlong into the turbulent, often unpredictable, and highly competitive Nigerian labor market, Professor Oramah braved all odds, consummately defying the laws of gravity every step of the way. When he commenced work at the Nigerian Export-Import Bank, NEXIM, in 1992 as assistant manager, Professor Oramah was already a trade and finance force of nature. His boundless Pan-African vision and mastery of strategic defiance will later propel him into a revolutionary new beginning at AFREXIM Bank in 1994 as one of the pioneer staff members when the Pan-African Multilateral Financial Institution began operations. Conceived in the mid-1980s by African ministers of finance amidst the global economic downturn and major economic recession in Africa, AFREXIM Bank was finally established on May 8, 1993. The purpose of AFREXIM Bank is to facilitate, promote, and finance intra-African and extra-African trade.
If every part of the world that is developed shows data that they trade more amongst themselves, why don't we make Africa trade more amongst itself to see if we join the rank of the developed?
One must commend AFREXIM Bank for putting together this initiative for the very first time ever, for bringing Africans together to see and discuss how we can foster intra-Africa trade, which is today at 15% compared to Europe, which is at 67%.
The trade finance gap on the continent is about 120 billion US dollars. The infrastructure gap, about $90 billion. The gap is huge.
Africa's trade is about $1 trillion. What it tells you is that the infrastructure available is able to carry $1 trillion of that trade. The question is, why is it that intra-African trade share of that $1 trillion is just $170 billion? Why is it not $400 billion?
Where we are today compared to how things were 10 years ago, you can see that our governments are gradually becoming very, very enthusiastic to see success in the private sector.
AFREXIM Bank made its first loan commitment on 30th September 1994 and had a total balance sheet of around $600 million US by 2005. Assuming the mantle of leadership when AFREXIM Bank's outstanding assets and guarantees was just over $4 billion US and shareholders' funds capital was about $900 million US. In September 2015, Professor Oramah faced his first major test, a deep commodity crisis, cuts in credit lines by international banks to African counterparties, which deepened the already bottomless trade and development finance gap. Herculean with the task ahead. Nonetheless, Professor Oramah believed that it's not just the size of the dog in the fight that counts, but the fight in the dog that wins. He adroitly maneuvered the first real test by engineering the launch of the counter-cyclical trade liquidity facility, which enabled AFREXIM Bank to disburse over $10 billion in support of countries most affected by the shock, including Nigeria. AFREXIM Bank, under Professor Oramah, has grown in leaps and bounds, with its balance sheet size, including guarantees, reaching about $30 billion and its capital base about $5 billion in only 7 years.
Under his leadership, the bank has grown in leaps and bounds. The bank has become so much more relevant. He's a visionary leader.
He has his dreams to transform Africa's trade. He's been doing that by promoting intra-African trade under the AFTA regime.
Your giant prints of supporting and growing businesses and trade platforms across Africa are indelible. Like I say to my colleagues all the time, any transaction Dr. Oramah is not able to structure is not bankable.
Professor Oramah is a passionate champion of Africa's integration and economic emancipation. With him at the helm, AFREXIM Bank has assumed center stage in the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement (AFCFTA). He has championed the creation of an innovative digital ecosystem that is boosting intra-regional trade and investment, revolutionizing cross-border payments and improving access to quality trade information. These include the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, a trade information portal, a trade regulations portal, and Mansa platform.
The PAPS has been described as a revolutionary financial market infrastructure that will enable instant cross-border payments in local currencies between African markets under the new intra-Africa trade arrangement.
Over the last 2 to 3 years, AFREXIM Bank, working with AFCFTA under the endorsement of the African Union Heads of State, has put in place a core infrastructure that is able to facilitate payments across borders in local currencies.
What it means is that somebody in Nigeria wanting to buy something from South Africa does not have to go look for dollars or euro or whatever to pay the South African. The Nigerian will pay for those goods in Naira, and the South African exporter will get the rand. We think this will be a game changer.
EcoBank's one of the banks or partners for this particular program. What is the rationale behind the setting up of the PAPSS system in the first instance?
Allowing Africans to take their destiny in their hands, create employment, generate wealth.
The bank is transforming the continent's health and medical system through its African Medical Center of Excellence initiative. The bank is currently developing a $300 million ultra-modern African Medical Center of Excellence in Abuja, which will help transform the country's and region's health and medical service industry, improve healthcare delivery, as well as make Nigeria a regional hub for medical tourism. AFREXIM Bank is also developing an AFREXIM Bank Africa Trade Center, AATC, Abuja, which will, amongst others, house the bank's regional office, a modern conference and exhibition facility, a tech incubation center, a hotel, and offices for international and pan-African organizations. Further, the bank has completed the development of an Africa Quality Assurance Center in Ogun State, a facility that will significantly boost the testing and certification of Nigerian goods for exports and for domestic consumption. Nigeria is the first beneficiary of these flagship projects. In recognition of his achievements and exceptional leadership, Professor Oramah has received several honors and awards. This year alone, he has been decorated with several awards and honors, including African Banker of the Year, African Champion of the Year, African Energy Person of the Year, and African Bar Association's Merit Leadership Awards. Margaret H. Demant African Art Award by the Detroit Institute of Arts, and in 2018, he was deservingly decorated Professor of International Trade and Finance by Adeleke University, Nigeria.
My prayer for Professor Oramah is that the light of God will continue to shine upon him and his lovely family.
As we celebrate this great icon today, we wish him all the best in his future endeavors and we congratulate him.
It's a well-deserved award. The board and management of Fidelity Bank are grateful for all the collaboration and support of AFREXIM under your watch.
In the words of Bertolt Brecht, hungry man, rich for the book. It's a weapon. Professor Oramah is one hungry man, one who didn't just reach for the book, but also for the boots and tools. Yes, he did. He has run through a troop, galvanized an army, and is leading a good fight for Africa's renaissance. With an unbroken sword, he deserves all rounds of applause and a million accolades. He's truly a force of nature, a trade and finance colossus of unrivaled pedigree, a proud son of the African soil, a true Nigerian by every standard, and a commander of inestimable virtues, a thoroughly good man. Congratulations, Professor Benedict Okechukwu Oramah, CON.